How do you see the game itself playing out? We'll get to the props in a moment here.
So I know Ken does this a lot where he gives out his number on the game, but he has like a subjective opinion that he wants to bet sometimes. That's kind of where I am on this game. So my raw number in the game is Eagles minus 1.7, total of 50.1. So as it stands right now, I would lean towards the Eagles and the under. Subjectively, I really like the Eagles in the game. I didn't bet them. There's no, like, I do my numbers for a reason, right? Like that's where I want my starting point to be. But I think a lot of the discourse this week has been around the Eagles haven't played anybody. How do we know they're for real? They've kind of had the easy schedule, so on and so forth. And I mean, it's true, but they are clobbering teams. Like, it's not like they've just kind of scraped by the entire year, winning games by like 3 points over and over. They were steamrolling teams for the most part, and we get them here. And with the exception of the quarterback position, which you can't discount, it's obviously the most important position on the field. I mean, I like the Eagles and how they match up everywhere else. I guess obviously you give KC the tight end in terms of Travis Kelce against Dallas Goedert, but like Dallas Goedert is a top 5 tight end as well. I just like the fact that the Eagles are very dominant on both lines of scrimmage. That's not to say that they're just going to steamroll KC here. KC's offensive line is much better than it was years ago in the Super Bowl when the Bucs defensive line killed them. Defensive line, they're second most sacks in the entire league, only behind the entire Eagles. It's not like KC is just a sieve altogether, but I think Philadelphia is just that complete team where they found a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who is not an elite quarterback, but on his rookie deal, who is very good, and they've surrounded him with a ton of talent, and that's very hard to overcome. And a lot of people are talking about this being like a coaching mismatch. I don't necessarily agree with that either. Like, obviously Andy Reid has a ton of experience, but Andy Reid is the type of guy that's going to punt on 4th and 5 from the opponent's 30-40-yard line instead of kicking a long field goal, whereas Sirianni is making all these plus EV decisions in game, going for it on 4th and 1 with the quarterback sneak in his own 40-yard line and so on and so forth. So I like the Eagles subjectively. That's my handicap of the game. I have not bet anything here, though.
Rob, in terms of like most Super Bowls, we obviously go into most Super Bowls not really having any questions about the health of either quarterback involved. Maybe there's one quarterback where we're not sure, but then one's totally healthy. This game, I feel like we've had guests on this week who have correctly brought up that we're not really sure about either quarterback and their effectiveness. Like, is Mahomes 100% from the high ankle sprain? That's been kind of debated to death, basically, on a bunch of shows. And I think people still have a lot of questions about Jalen Hurts' shoulder injury, kind of because of what you mentioned. Like, they beat the Giants handily, so he didn't have to do as much in the second half. And then the Niners game ended up being like a fake game, basically, where he didn't have to do as much. And the defense actually just had to stop Josh Johnson in order to win the game. Are you proceeding is your handicap of the game basically that like you're proceeding like both quarterbacks are going to be 100%, or do you kind of have doubts too?
I have doubts too. So I'm not saying 100%. I just don't think it will be like a major limiting factor for either quarterback, right? We're now 3 weeks removed from a high ankle sprain. If I follow all the Twitter doctors, by the way, like that's my new thing. I like to keep up with, and most of them are saying that you would have typically like an 80 to 90% performance this far after that type of injury for a quarterback. It didn't look like it affected Mahomes all that much against the Cincinnati Bengals in the conference championships. On the other side, I mean, there's concern about Jalen Hurts as well. His deep ball didn't really look great against the 49ers. He didn't have to do a whole lot in that game. But again, you have 2 weeks in between then and now. So if you're fixated on that data point, that was 2 weeks ago. I don't think either is 100% right, but I think this is the Super Bowl. They lay it all out on the line. I don't think it has a major impact on the game, but that is just my opinion, and that's not rooted in any sort of science but that's the approach that I'm taking.
Rob, what's your favorite prop for Super Bowl 57 and why?
So I'll give current market prices because like I'm not doing anyone service by coming on and saying, oh, I got this number or whatever. I think Jerick McKinnon over 20.5 receiving yards is low. I mean, this is the lowest he's been priced in a very long time. If you look back to the end of the regular season, and again, I'm more in tune with the props market now, so I see these numbers on a weekly basis. You were regularly getting McKinnon in the upper 20s. You had games where you got him in the mid 30s, but what happened was they played Cincinnati and Pacheco went off, like 6 receptions, 49 yards. McKinnon got 4 targets, but he only turned that into 17 yards. I think there's been an over-adjustment here. personally, I like his over at this number. You have to incorporate or factor in the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire got activated. He might steal some touches in this game. But overall, if you're KC and you're game planning for this Eagles pass rush, I think a lot of what the Chiefs are going to do is in the screen game, get the ball out of Mahomes' hands quickly. I don't think they want him to be a drop back passer and that they're going to air it out downfield. I just don't see the Chiefs attacking in that manner. So I think McKinnon's going to have a big game in the passing game. BetMGM over 20.5 minus 111 right now, current market price. Honestly, I think this should be priced at least in the mid 20s. So I think there's a lot of room there.